I'll be teaching vocabulary today to my two sisters. This one is Netherland and this one is Ireland. If I call Netherland Monkey or Monk, that's like her family nickname, so I apologize in advance because that's what we usually call her. But basically, we're going to be going over some vocabulary words that you guys may or may not know, and we're going to give you some strategies on how to remember them and keep them in your vocabulary bank so you can use them in the future. So a strategy that I'm going to be using is called total practice response. Sorry, what is it called? Total physical response. And I picked this one because obviously I want to be a PE teacher, and so I like the thought of getting children moving in the classroom. So the setting of this is that we're in an actual classroom where we're going to be adding movement to our vocabulary words that we're learning today. So I'm going to first let you guys know the definition of some of these vocabulary words, and then I'll give you guys a total physical response strategy to remember them. Okay, do either of you know what a verb is? What is it, Ireland? What do you think it is?
I would say a place or I don't know.
So a noun would be considered a person, place, or thing, right? But a verb is a word used to describe an action, state, or occurrence and forming in the main part of a prediction of a sentence, such as the word hear, become, happen. And here, not I'm right here, hear hearing out of our ears. So that's the word that we're going to use for that is running. So if you were to use running in a sentence, Netherland, how would you use running?
I'm running to the park.
You're running to the park. Okay, and so in that sentence, what word is your verb?
Running.
And why is that?
Because it's an action.
It's describing an action, right? So the action is you running, right? And you're describing that you're running to the park. Okay, so since we're sitting in our seats right now, and whenever we're in class talking about verbs, if I say the word verb, I want you to perform this action, okay? So we're going to be sitting down at our chairs, and when I say verb, we're going to sit in place and kind of move our arms and legs up and down like this. Now, Netherland is actually injured, so when you do this, just kind of tap your feet lightly, okay? Okay. All right, class, so we are going to be going over our verbs today. Good. Kind of took you guys a second to get used to that. Remember, if anytime you hear me say verb, I'll intentionally stop so that we remember that we're running in place, right? And why are we using running again?
Because it's a verb in sentence.
It's describing an action, right? Good. Okay, so our next word is going to be an adjective. Did any of you know what an adjective is? You probably heard it, right? Okay, so an adjective is a word or phrase naming an attribute added to or grammatically related to a noun to modify or describe it. So it's basically describing a noun. And so I also forgot to mention when we're doing verb, we're not only running in place, but we're going to say a quick little short definition of a verb, okay? So you guys are just going to say describing an action when we're running in place. Okay, so what is verb?
Running in place.
Describing an action. Try it again. Ready? Verb.
Running in place.
Describing an action.
Describing an action.
Okay, we're going to do it one more time. Verb. Describing an action. Good. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So anytime I say verb, not only are we going to run in place, but we're also going to say describing an action, okay? So an adjective describes a noun. So when we do this, we're going to say describes a noun. One thing that would be is some adjectives would be that I'm feeling good, or I'm feeling sad, or that food is too sour, it's too sweet, stuff like that. The word sour, sweet, good, bad is the adjective that would describe the noun, right? Because food isn't, the actual object of food is a noun. And if we're describing it as sour, that's our adjective, right? So we're going to do a nice and easy one. We're going to do thumbs up because it's good. Okay? So we're going to go thumbs up for adjective, and we're going to say describes a noun.
Describes a noun.
Okay, ready? Adjective.
Describes a noun.
Good. And verb?
Action in place.
Describes an action. Okay, and the last one that we're going to go over today is a metaphor. Do we know what a metaphor is?
Yes, but no.
Okay. So we hear about metaphors and similes a lot. Today we're going to go over a metaphor. That's a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. So that's when we can describe anything in the world to something else without it not really making sense. Like if I said Netherlands is like that lampshade in the back corner. Doesn't make any sense for us to compare them, right? But we can compare it not literally and just kind of use it as a way to describe something, right? So I like this one. This one's probably my favorite one. We're gonna do it's called cow alien. Okay? So our definition for this is gonna be comparing two random things, okay? I know that's not the actual definition of a metaphor, but that's going to really help us remember it, okay? So we'll be sitting down, and you guys have seen aliens, right? Sometimes people have aliens that have, like, sticking up heads, right? So we're going to sit down, and if I say metaphor, we're going to go, moo, comparing two different things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, metaphor, moo, comparing two different things. Again, the definition of a metaphor isn't exactly comparing two things, but it helps us remember that when we're using a metaphor, we're going to compare two random things, right? Okay. So now that we learned our verbs today.
Action of that. I don't know. Action of
Describes an action.
Describes an action.
Good. We're going to work on these a lot. We can also use adjectives.
Thumbs up.
What does this one do? Describes a noun. All right, a metaphor. Hopefully you remember this one. What is a metaphor?
Oh God. It's like a cow and an alien.
So what's the difference between a cow and an alien?
One's a figure, one's not a figure.
No, it's comparing two different things, right?
Okay.
All right, so as you can see, the three vocabulary words that my sisters learned today are kind of new to them, and they're struggling a little bit with holding on to these movements and smaller terms, but over at least a class day and practice time, they'll be able to really get these down in their head and be able to remember these words as soon as I say them. Sometimes I might even be able to forget that I'm saying the word verb and that they're going to start, running in place and describing what a verb is. I hoped that this video was informational about our strategy. Sorry, it's total physical response. I also use another strategy for this assignment, but I really wanted to focus on total physical response. If you have any questions, you can put them down below, but thank you for watching.